We want to start off with a reminder that we are not doctors. Before you make any changes or try something new, always consult with your doctor and medical team first. Chronic illness can vary from patient to patient, so it's always best to consult with your own doctor for what is best for you.
Hello and welcome to IBD Determined. I'm your host, Mason Harvey, and I have Crohn's disease.
And I'm your host, Michelle Harvey. I'm Mason's mom, and I speak from the role of a caregiver. And today's episode is to announce that, and some of you may have already tuned in because you know about this, but we're also going to announce that we published 2 more books. Yes.
So they're not like reading books. No.
They're like a journal,
yes,
but it's in a book style. So the first one is Not Your Average Food Journal and IBD Symptom Tracker.
Yes.
And so you'll see it's a legit book.
Yeah.
And that's the first one. Mm-hmm. And the other one we published is
Not Your Average Restroom Journal and
IBD Symptom Tracker. Yeah. And there's Reggie.
Yes.
Hello. And so this one also, same thing. It is a nice paperback book. So we'll show you more of these in a second, but those are what we published. And if you bought these and you scan the QR code to learn a little bit more about them, you're in the right place. So there is a QR code in all these, and it instructs you guys to come here and watch this so we can help you guys. Pretty self-explanatory, but just in case you wanted any tips or ideas for how we use them, we thought, why not? So the way that these came about was when Mason was diagnosed and he was in the hospital. We were starting to record
everything I would eat, so we would know if there's a trigger.
Mm-hmm.
And
anything in the bathroom.
Yes,
as well. So
like for the food journal and the IBD symptoms, we would, if I ate something that I didn't usually eat, we could always track it down. But we'd write down what I ate and what symptoms I had that day, so we could see if anything would kind of connect to, could say I was possibly leading to a flare.
And it also helped because what we realized is you were going to the bathroom so many times. And that's the reality of IBD. And so you think you'll remember, and you may, but when the doctor comes and says, how many times, so when the doctor, when the doctor asks you, how many times did you go today? It's like, I think,
8.
I don't know, 8. And then, when you start actually documenting it, you realize, wow,
it was a lot more.
It was a lot more. Or, what did it look like? Things like that. And so it was easy for us to start writing it down. So we made sure we didn't miss anything. And it just kind of turned into a habit we brought home with us. And when we got home, we actually looked on like Amazon and we're like, okay, is there something like this? And there was a few options, but none of them really checked all the boxes. And, some were just to do like a food journal. Remember, the simple was a very simple one we had. You just write down what you ate.
Yeah, what you ate and what you drank.
Right. And so we found one of those, and then those ended up being discontinued. And I think they came out the new version or something. So in the meantime, I was like, well, let's just make our own.
Yeah.
So so I'm like, we know what we need. We know what would work best for this disease. And so we made some that were just kind of like spiral bound notebooks.
Yeah, we've been using those for like
3 years now. Yeah, so we made those mainly for us because I'm like, well, we can buy enough and we'll always have them, and then we could give them to others if anybody needed them. But they were not anything by any means anything pretty.
Yeah, they weren't like amazing. Well, they were helpful.
Yeah,
most definitely helpful.
They served a purpose, and we could bring them with us to his appointments and show the doctor, and she could look right away and say, oh, this has been a trend, like look at this, or oh, he's doing better, doing worse, whatever. It's all right there. So it ended up that just, I'm like, we always want to make it a little bit better.
Yeah.
And have something like a little bit more detailed and include where you could document maybe your food triggers, but then on another page, maybe you could mention like, oh, hey, I happen to have got a mouth sore this week. Oh, I had my temperature was up.
Yeah, if
you
you
know,
don't write those things down, you might be like, oh, those are just weird things. But then if
right,
you write them down, you might see they're all coming one after another.
right.
And they might all be chaining or connecting to something else. And you're like, oh, you don't
Yeah,
wanna
and
do
all of a
that.
sudden it's like a correlation. Instead of trying to remember, well, I did have like, I did have that weird rash,
Mhm.
but I can't remember what week. But this way you can look back now and say, oh, look, and hey, at the same time I had tried this kind of food. And maybe it wasn't connected. Maybe it was you had no food reactions. And you're going, well, that's weird. So maybe you can start tracking potential
Yeah.
flare issues. So
Symptoms.
that was kind of our idea. We wanted something that would track them both, track them together, and make it easy for a doctor to look and say, oh, look at this, hey, here's this. And it was also something we wish we had before you were diagnosed.
Yeah, I would have made it so much more easy.
Yes. But this idea was not just for after diagnosis, it's for like a pre-diagnosis too. So if you're looking at something, and you're kind of curious, like, okay, let's start tracking stuff down. Let's see if there is a correlation here. If it's a food intolerance, if it's a food allergy, and so we also want something that anybody could use that's maybe facing any kind of health challenge.
Not just Crohn's. I like the Not Your Average Slice of Pizza book. It wasn't specifically like Reggie has Crohn's,
right.
and this book is meant for Crohn's. It's meant for any kid, any disease, any health
Right.
issue.
Because you can follow it.
Yeah,
And
it's not like specific to one thing.
yeah. I mean, and it is based on Mason's journey, but in a way that others can always relate
they
to.
can imagine kind of themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's other disorders that people have that may have a reason to need to track food or track what's going on in the bathroom.
Mhm.
And so we wanted to create something that was not only like very functional, but was also like just felt nice. Like it looks well thought out. It's nice to look at. It's kind of fun.
It's not like a little
And
piece of paper the hospital
yeah.
gives you and
it's not just like a standard like journal. So we wanted something that would work for adults and children. Oh, and the other thing was, and so some of these we found they would put them together. So you'd have a food journal and a restroom, like they would be in like the same journal.
And
we didn't like that. So that's our preference.
It can get confusing.
Yeah. Well, it's also kind of like I feel like there's a little bit of dignity with this disease. And sometimes I feel like it's easy for people to forget when you have it that maybe an adult doesn't want to write down what they ate for dinner and what happened after.
Yeah.
And maybe you don't want it all in
other.
one spot like that.
And then you're like, oh wow, that's
yeah.
brilliant.
And there's something about having an actual like paper like to write this down on and visually see it. Everything's on apps, everything's digital, but I think this is great to actually have it.
You put one in the dining room,
Yes.
put one in the bathroom.
So that's what we did. And that's how we've always done it. When Mason keeps one in the bathroom, that's where it stays. And then the other one, it's sometimes, could be the kitchen, the dining room. And we also wanted something though that could be portable. So if you go out to dinner, and that's the other reason why you don't want the restroom journal with it. You don't necessarily want that, and it could be, I don't know, if with this disease, you aren't as embarrassed of everything, I guess. But for some people, it's still like, hey, I don't need to open this up and have a stool chart looking at me. Well, so
I want to have for dinner.
Yeah, it's like, I don't need that. So we just thought if we could price something while it was low enough, you could get both, for both under $20, something that you could keep separate. And we also designed this, like you'll notice this one is slightly
bigger.
Yeah, this one's slightly bigger. This one's slightly smaller. This one will fit in probably any handbag, a backpack, easy. I mean, the other one would too, because you can bring that with you to your appointments. But this one,
large pocket.
Yeah, this one would work for that.
Yeah.
So anyways, that is the explanation of where these came from and why we did this
and what they can be used.
Yeah, and so they're very like you can feel like they're nice. They're a glossy cover.
They're like a book you would buy, kind of like from Barnes and Noble, like that.
Yeah, no, it's a great quality book, and I'm so happy with it because I really wanted something that you would receive it and feel like you got something of value and something that just made you feel supported and valued. Like, hey, this does matter, and this doesn't have to be like super serious and boring. Like, and it doesn't have to be like, oh, look at it's made for a kid. It's kind of in between.
Yeah,
I feel like
in the middle.
So yeah, it was well thought out by us, and we'll just talk about this one. We're holding it first. We're gonna talk about the food journal first. So if you receive this, you're gonna notice there's a bunch of food all over cover, and
it's actually a funny little story behind all these pieces of food. These were actually the original drawings I did from when I was in the hospital. Because there wasn't much to do, And so when there wasn't much to do, I just draw some drawings of food, and those are all the original drawings.
Yep,
There's probably more, but
there's a lot more,
they're
but
just some of the best ones.
yeah, these are, and I have, we have a backpack with this print, we have shoes. It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
And we get a lot of comments on it. And so, yeah, so
get that.
this was, Mason was hungry and he was on gut rest. And so
If
he's
you're
like,
hungry,
I'm gonna draw
why not
food.
draw fake food to look
Yeah.
at?
So these are, this is obviously like, it's just kind of like a fun reference to that. And then on the back, we have a little Reggie. So just a reminder. Yeah. It's a little Reggie waving at you.
Mhm.
And you're going to find, so if you guys turn, open your book, and we'll kind of walk you through it as we're looking at it. You'll see how to use your journal. And so again, you can use this however you want. And that's the
But if you want
idea.
an idea how to use it, you can look at the journal, read the instructions, and be like, okay, well,
right. And with that, we have an example, like when you turn the page, we have an example filled out with how we would do this.
Yeah. Once again, you can do it differently, but this is just how we filled it out.
Yeah. So we turn the page. And then you're going to see a medication vitamins list. This is not something you have to fill out every day. At certain points, you're taking different medications, and it's kind of hard to maybe keep track for everybody. And also, when you are like right now, they're kind of training you at Rady's. You've started a while ago, actually. I think it was at 12. They started it where they start having the kids answer questions like, what is your medications you're on? What is your dosage? And all that.
Right. And I was on so many, it's kind of hard to remember.
Yeah.
Because Sunday and Saturday, I'd take 2 extra pills than all the other days.
Yeah.
And so then you get that confused, and then you're changing certain things because I was took off one of the pills, and then you kind of don't remember that happened. So you just kind of think of, oh yes, I remember this name, so I must be on it, but you're not on it. So yeah, you can say what you're on or remember and all that stuff.
And again, it's helpful because when you're meeting with your doctor, Mason had an IBD dietitian. And so this is helpful. So when you meet with them and you fill out your preforms, you have everything listed here that you're taking, the dosage amount, the time, the day.
My vitamin D, I'm gummy vitamin Ds. You can say how much dose you're on, how many times you take a day from each one.
Right. So vitamins, it's included here. And
2, which is whatever milligrams that is.
So just a helpful little chart to keep track of, and you can add more as you go. And then the way that the food ones, we're just going to open this up really quick for you guys so you can see really quick. The way these are set up is it is 1 day. This should last you, if you did 1 day every day, it would last 3 months. So that's about the length,
Pretty good.
And so that's how it's set up. So you're going to have the first page, which is on this side. And we purposely set it up like this. So when you're able to show it to your doctor, it's right laid out next to each other. So you can look right away. Instead of having to flip a page, it's like, okay, this is with this date. This goes with this one. So there is a point to that. And you'll see you put the date, which is really important, guys. Please put the date.
On my journal that I have, sometimes I don't write the date down, and then I go to write the date on the next day, and I'm like, because I turn the page and you can't really see, and you get it mixed up. I'm like, oh, what was the date? And so you have to look at the calendar, then you have to re-go through everything, make sure you write the date down. Yeah. So make sure you write down the date, or else it might get kind of confusing on what day that was.
Yeah, it's important because again, little things you think you're going to remember, you don't, because the days blend together. So it's important to put that there. We have a spot for weight, again, optional. Yeah. You can use this if you want. For us, it was important because for Mason, he was on a gaining weight diet, I guess you would say. So he was trying to gain weight. So it's important for us to monitor weight. Yeah. And also it's just important if you're trying to track for a flare. Sometimes that's where you can first notice something's happening with your body.
Isn't absorbing as much nutrition, so your weight might go down.
It's, it's up to you, but we do weight every time we add it there. And then hours of sleep.
You wake up at night.
Yeah, maybe you're getting up at night. And so it's just good for you to be able to see, and your doctor to be able to see how much sleep you are getting.
And it's also important.
Right next to it, there's some smiley, sad, neutral faces, and that's for mood. And so again, mental health is an important part of this. And so we have, you can, check off which one you're feeling like on that day.
Because stress can potentially make flares worse, or maybe start a flare.
Right.
Not a severe one, but it can start.
Right. Or maybe you can start to realize that maybe you're having more bad days than good days. And it might be time, make sure talk to your therapist or, get a therapist. So these are helpful things, just helpful tools daily to just kind of monitor your mood, see how you're doing.
There's one that I think is a very important one for flares, which is appetite changes, which there's a yes or no box.
And that's on the next page.
Yeah, it's on the next page over under the weight or weight gained, which that's important for me because usually for me, the first signal of a flare is a loss of appetite. That's for me. It's different for everyone. The last flare, that didn't happen. But usually that does happen first, so that is a good little warning sign.
Yeah. The first page, going back to that one, we're going to have a spot. We have it where you have room to write the type of food you ate, type of drink you had, the amount. That's also important as well, and reaction or pain. Maybe there was a reaction. Maybe it wasn't a painful one. Maybe you just did feel pain. But important to write what the reaction might have been to that. So this is also good like for allergies. If you're trying to figure out if you have an allergic reaction, important to put that here too. So again, this first page can really be used for anybody. It's not like IBD specific necessarily. So you can use this to how it works for you. We have room for where you will put for breakfast and drinks, what you have for breakfast with the clock next to it. Fill in the time. So maybe you had breakfast and there was no reaction, but maybe by the time you had lunch,
you had a little reaction.
You had a reaction. Put a little note in the reaction or pain about what time, maybe when that happens. So you can correlate it to what you ate before or what you ate then. Yeah. Like if you start getting sick while you were eating it, that's different than having a reaction a little bit later. So, important. Those are little things you can fill and you can customize this again as much as you want. But there's lunch and drinks, dinner and drinks, dessert and drinks, and an area for snacks and drinks.
The best part.
Yeah, your favorite. That's all on the first page. And then there's also a spot that says, did you take all vitamins?
Hopefully you're right, yes.
And either you can use this, for some people it might be a good reminder to you, like, oops, I forgot my vitamins today. And again, another way to correlate something, maybe why you start feeling unwell, or
on one day you forgot to take a vitamin or a pill or something like that.
Because it also has, did you take all medications? So same kind of thing. You might realize, I didn't I didn't take them. And if for a certain reason, maybe somebody did take them and you got sick afterwards. And maybe you weren't able to take your medication for a reason. Maybe you weren't able to take the vitamins because you were, ill. Who knows? So it's important to say yes or no. So you at least know on that day. And then you can circle the total amount of 16.9 ounce bottles of water. That's like the average size water bottle you would get.
Because especially in a flare, you're not absorbing as much water.
Right.
So you got to make sure to drink a little more water than usual so you stay hydrated.
So it's just important. Like that way you know how much water you're drinking. And then underneath that we have supplemental nutrition drinks. So
I'm very familiar with.
Yes. He has a couple a day. So, right now we're circling 2, but at one point we would have been circling 9 of these because that was all he was having. So some of you out there, maybe you're doing EEN and you're just going to be having just drinks. And so it's important to still monitor that too. So this will transition with you from whatever phase of a IBD diet you're on. This should help. And on the second page, kind of where Mason was talking about, where a couple of things that are most important to him are, this is more, I would say, for IBD, but I'm sure it can be used for others. Yes,
there's
but
probably other uses for them.
There might be, but we designed this specifically for IBD. So it's going to ask you if you're in a flare. And it says yes, no, or unsure. But that's because sometimes you don't know, right?
You're just having a bad day.
Right.
It might clear up the next day.
Right.
Or maybe you're in a flare because it's been like this for about a week or so.
Right. And you started recording this because you're in a flare and so yes. And so it kind of helps because when you're looking for food triggers, if you're in a flare, it's important to note that if whatever you're eating, maybe all of it's being triggering at that moment because you're in a flare. But if you are not in a flare and you are doing okay and you can see that you're having reactions, then that can show you a food trigger, So again, these just help kind of identify food triggers, or are you in a flare and that's why you're having reactions. So
there's like new foods and drinks tried today. I remember when we first got out of the hospital, I was only allowed to eat a very limited amount of things. And slowly my doctor would say, well, maybe you can try this. You have it. And then you're like, well, I had a new food today, which I don't usually have. And did it go well, or did it
Right.
a little reaction? Did it cause a flare, maybe?
Yeah.
Possibly,
So there's a
potentially?
spot where you can add that too. It's a little further down on the page. And but right under if asking if you're in a flare, it asks what your body temperature is. So again, you don't have to do this, but sometimes with IBD, you'll run a temperature. And so it's good to see maybe you just want to take a temperature. You don't have to do it all the time. Maybe you want to do it daily and just keep monitoring it.
Just
But
to make sure.
that can kind of help give you an indicator of something as well. And also, I mean, it could be that you're just sick and you have one, but there's a spot for that too that asks if you are sick. So again, we're trying to make sure everything correlates. So if you have everything that's great, but you have a temperature, why do you have a temperature? If you look down here, it says, are you currently sick? Cold, flu, COVID, etc. So you would write in there what you have, and that could explain why your body temperature is up at that time. So it's important it just gives a full picture, I guess, for the doctors. And then, like Mason was mentioning, it has a spot for weight lost or weight gained. So if you're monitoring your weight every day, you can go back and look at the prior day and you can start saying, oh, yeah, I maybe lost a couple ounces, gained a couple ounces, or maybe suddenly I've dropped a couple pounds. Yeah. So that's helpful too. And the appetite changes, really important to note because it does happen with a lot of these guys. And for him, he just loses his appetite. Some people don't want to eat because of the pain. It becomes difficult to eat. So just important to note if you've had any of those appetite changes. And there's a daily calorie goal and actual calorie intake. This might be a little more challenging to figure out.
More confusing.
But when we did meet with the dietitian, we did have goals that we needed Mason to try to meet. And so we would have like say a daily calorie goal is 2,000, 2,100, 2,200, something around there. And it could be higher, could be lower.
Really important to you. The only thing you just got to find the calories somewhere on whatever.
Right.
You're making.
So try to maybe just do the best you can.
Yeah.
And just so you have an idea, are you getting close to it? Because if you're still losing weight and you're supposed to be getting, 2,000 calories a day and say you're getting 2,100 and you're like, why am I losing weight? That could be because you have some inflammation going on and your body's not absorbing it. So there's different little clues in here that could help. And we have a special spot where you can check yes or no for mouth ulcers,
eye issues,
skin rashes, and joint pain. So again, some people with this disease will experience all of these. Some will experience one, some may not experience, or two. These could all be signs of a flare as well. So important to kind of document if you're having these so you can look back and you can see if this is flare related, if this is triggered by food, because there could be other things that trigger these things depending on what you have. Like, again, some of this does not just can be used for things besides IBD, but these will all work for IBD for sure. So we talked about the new foods and drinks. You mentioned that. Talked about how it has if you're currently sick.
Flu, cold, or COVID.
And then changes in medication or treatments.
Oh, that's important.
And the reason that is important is because Mason started to flare because they adjusted his medications. So it wasn't like they changed the medication, they changed the timing. So that's important to know.
4 weeks to 5 weeks and then 5 weeks to 6 weeks to try to get to 6 weeks. And the test said that I had enough in my system.
Yeah, his crop levels are high enough.
But I just probably need a little bit more than usual. So that's another good thing to check.
Right. So it's important to say that. So that way, if you're looking for food triggers, see, was it the food that triggered it or was it maybe because there was a medication change? So that's why we also have this here so we can correlate that.
What is like a steroid, like prednisone? Because that was kind of like a treatment for me.
Same thing. That would be like a medication.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's like a medication. So a treatment, I put medication treatments here because some people consider like a treatment to be like an infusion, that kind of thing. And a medication might be like the steroid. It could, or it could be like the injection. Yeah. So whatever you consider it, it kind of covers that. So yes, this is where you should put if you are a steroid wean and you need to put that here that you're trying to get off of this so you can again correlate because
prednisone takes a really long time to wean off.
Yeah.
Well, did you take all your vitamins today?
Right. So it's important to look at everything, see if there are any changes. You add new vitamins. Maybe that is causing an issue. There are so many things here that a doctor could look at this really and help you with it. And food or drinks that hurt or trigger or any that might have triggered me today. So this you don't have to fill out, but if you just want to put a reminder here, more if you have a question like, I think that triggered me. So that way you can put like maybe, like with a question mark here. This one, and then when you do it the following week, if you keep seeing a recurring theme, then you may have found a food trigger. Then at the bottom it says, are there any stool changes? And that is where we get to the restroom
Yeah.
journal. And so,
Segue.
yeah. So if you check yes, we recommend you use the restroom journal. And if you check no, I mean, you could still use the
Yeah.
restroom journal.
You could buy both.
Yeah, I definitely, for us, these go hand in hand. And I
Yeah.
think the restroom journal for us is like the most
Important. More important, but
Yeah.
which one is, you've had, I don't know, you had pizza for the first time 2 months ago, and you want to make sure that maybe it's not changing things, but you've had pizza by now and you're completely fine for almost a year. You're not
Yeah.
worried about saying, well, I've had pizza and I was fine before, so it shouldn't really.
So you don't have to keep like
Yeah.
putting it in here.
It's like, oh my God, I had pizza today. I
But
had pizza today.
the important thing with the food journal and why these are so important to keep at hand, even when you're doing well, is because just like what happened with Mason a few weeks ago when he started not feeling well, it is important to suddenly say, okay, well, what are we looking at? Let's start documenting again. What is he eating? What is he drinking? And, or is this more of a
Or is it
reaction
reaction
to the
the
change in the
treatments?
timing?
Or is it because of something he ate a few days ago?
Because
you
the doctor's going to ask that and ask those things. So it's important, just like keep it handy, even if you're not if you think you don't need it, you just might. And so this little book is,
It might just be your savior.
it'll really help you guys. And I think you'll be very happy with
Yeah.
it. And the other one now, so what we're going to talk about next is
The restroom journal.
the restroom journal.
It's a very beautiful paint color.
Yeah, I know. Woo.
Front page, yes.
And so Mason, it was important to him. And,
Still is.
yes, how we designed this though, the design is important on this. And you'll see it looks like basically like bathroom tiles, something you find on a shower, maybe on a floor, on vanity, on, whatever.
Yeah.
So we thought,
Just a nice and laid back.
right, like, okay, this is a restroom journal, but we don't want something that's like
Yeah.
making fun of it. I mean, some people may have a sense of humor about it, but it's like, okay, how do we create something universal that is going to say, hey, this is a restroom journal, but not like, hey, this is,
So some toilet paper.
yeah. And so he's like, please don't make it funny. Like don't put Reggie on
Jokes aside.
Yeah, like that was important to him. He wanted something. And so I think this would appeal for kids and adults. I think it's a great compromise. And again, Reggie's on the front and Reggie's also on the back of this one.
He's everywhere.
Yeah, because it's all not your average themed, which is, after the original book, not your average slice of pizza. So we wanted to throw him on there like saying, hey. So yeah, and we had started off, like we mentioned, in the hospital, we just had a paper and we would write stuff down. And then we got home, we got a little more organized, and it was, just started getting out of hand. We had so many papers, and then it's not all in one place. And so this answers all those. This you can leave in your bathroom, and simple. It's just simple to fill out there and leave, and nobody else has to see it except for you and your doctor if you want, and your parents if it helps for us because we can look at it too. And so on the first page of this one, we're going to kind of go through it. It just tells you again
how to use your restroom.
How to use it with our suggestions.
Use it however you want, but we're just giving you
our suggestions. We also have an example that we filled out for you guys to kind of see how we do it. This is actually how Mason has been. It's laid out very closely. Yeah, to how you've been doing this. And so that's kind of helpful. We also have, you're going to see a medication and a vitamin list. And on the other page, the lovely stool reference
trying to get
chart.
Demonetized.
Yeah, it was going to be one of those things I almost put on every page. And then I was like, I don't think every single day you need to look at this and like, which kind is it? So we have, it's what his doctors use in the office. And you might even have seen these. And this is a little picture they usually hand you and say,
it's better than theirs.
What does your poop look like? And you're like, oh gosh, I don't know if it's better than theirs, but because it's ours.
It's ours.
It's not at the doctor's.
Yeah.
But it will help you guys and help teach. I mean, adults can learn this, kids, and so that way when the doctor asks you and say it's like a T4, it's a T5, a T, you have an idea of what you're looking at. And so so we have that in the very front, so you can flip back to that and refer to it if you need to. And then you have, again, we set this up the same way. So when you open it up, you have on the one side, you're going to have where you make all your recordings for your, I guess, the results.
Yep, the date and stuff.
And then you're going to have your IBD symptom tracker on the other side. So we'll kind of go through that real quick again. So the first page is your weekly restroom logs. So you can record 7 days, Monday through Sunday. And there's a spot for you able to write the actual date, which again, important to put in there so you know what day it was. Yes. And then we have a spot where you can put the time when you went to the restroom and the type. When we refer to type, we have, obviously the T1 through T7s. We'll try to not make this as gross as possible. I some of you are listening. You're like, I don't care, say it all, because and then other ones who are listening are like, please don't say that out loud. And you can read this yourself, but there's possible symptoms to include with it. So you'll see in our example, like you might say, oh, there was a T5 and there was a small amount of blood. Maybe there was just blood, but you want to differentiate between a small amount. And so we have a bunch of different things here, and I'm not going to go into all of them, but we have possible symptoms and abbreviations. So we would abbreviate. We have here the abbreviations, so you can write it in like maybe SA for small amount of blood, B for blood. And another tip, something we did.
Yeah, I color code it because sometimes when there's so much writing, depending if you go like 15 times a day.
Yes, it was when he was going a lot.
Because when you go 15 times a day, there's so much going on, it's hard to even see. So if you use a red colored pen instead of, just use that to circle whatever, then it's not as confusing.
Yeah, so it's kind of like it'll pop out like, okay, there was blood here and there. So that
basically a warning signal.
Yeah, so you can do that. And then some of you, we have a little area where you can write in your own abbreviations. So maybe something else is going on and you want to make note of that. So the reason we do abbreviations is because depending how many times you go in a day, it can take up a lot of space on the paper. And so sometimes for like right now, when Mason is doing well, we barely have to take up any space. But there were times where we fill out was just full. So that's why we have abbreviations. You can write it out if you want to, but that was our recommendation. Yeah. And then we have a spot in the corner that asks if there's any pain or soreness.
And then you have Monday to Sunday.
Yes. And so you would put if you had any pain or soreness, and also type or location, because sometimes you may have had, pain in the upper right quadrant. Maybe it was around your belly button. Maybe it was lower. It's important to note the type and location. And maybe if it's, because sometimes you would get pain, but it wasn't like we'd give you the heat pack. You get the pain at night. You would, and it would always be, and you could tell what spot it was in. Right. So just to note when you're having this, important to put that here. The second page on this one, which this is probably like my favorite thing that we did with these, is it's called the Pucai chart, Pucai, and it's a measure for ulcerative colitis and how far in remission you're doing. It gives you a number score. You're asked a bunch of questions. Our doctors use it for everybody, for Crohn's and UC. Yeah, for both of it. Right. So the Pucai score can be used for either of them. It's extremely helpful. So every time Mason goes in, we have to fill it out. And so I thought, why not include it? And you don't have to do it every day, but maybe at the end of the week, maybe you can say, so like every Sunday you fill this out. Maybe if you haven't done it and you're going to a doctor's appointment, fill it out beforehand. But it's good to see maybe once a week, start seeing a trend. So we ask all the questions that are on this test. They give him.
So you can be like, well, I don't really remember. So you can go to this and be like, well, for this, you can fill it all. You can kind of like copy and paste it from the book to
what you're trying to fill out. So your doctor has an accurate idea of what's going on. Yeah.
Well, it's not a guess, but like you're trying to remember.
Super helpful. So this was important for me to include because I think it's important to the doctors and it helps them see where you're at. But then we go into more. It's very similar to what's in the food journal as well, because these are also the other aspects they ask you. So the same question, am I in a flare? Your current body temperature, if there's any weight loss
or weight
gained again,
any appetite changes, daily calorie goal, actual calorie intake.
And this, again, some of these you may choose if you have both journals, you
may choose to do it in the
may choose just to do it in the food one, but make sure that you are, you're doing the dates on both of them so you can open both up and reference them. So that's what's really cool. If you're putting your dates on everything, like we mentioned, you'll be able to go back and forth and reference both of these together. And it'll be so helpful, guys. I'm telling you, both these together would be amazing for your doctors and for you.
It's confusing for yourself.
Yes. And mouth ulcers, eye issues,
skin rashes, and joint pain. That's also on it.
And then also asking again, are you currently sick? because those things can affect, if you have a flu, it can definitely affect your restroom habits. And so, or even COVID.
Yeah.
So there's other things that can affect us. So important to mark on here
Sure.
as well, again, and then any changes in medication or treatments.
That
Again,
is also very important
right.
for
Because that's one of the first changes. That's where you can see it as well. And so that's how the restroom journal is set up. And it's basically everything that we have used, everything we had wanted.
Yeah, basically the things that we thought would be most important.
I definitely think this is going to be one of the most like comprehensive sets of journals on the market right now for IBD. And you can have there's something else going on. Maybe you have visited your doctor. Maybe you visited the pediatrician. Maybe they are saying, "Oh, it's something else," and you feel like, "No, there is more going on." Maybe it's time for you to fill these out and bring this with you to an appointment. Show the doctor. Yes.
Happening.
Start recording it. Start showing them. So when they open it up, it's in black and white and it's right there. They can flip right through the pages and they can see what's going on. And I just think it's helpful with allergies if you're trying to track that for whatever purpose you use these for. But for us, we want to make sure there was something specific, and we have that second page to help you out there with IBD to really kind of track and see, like, if you're maybe going into a flare, coming out of a flare, things like that. So I think now you can see also why we kept them separate, because they are different books, but they do correlate and I think they go well together. And if you have IBD, I think you could use both. Yeah. Definitely. And I think that it just helps tell a larger story of what's going on.
You make sure what's going on. You're not just guessing and trying to remember what you did weeks ago, months ago.
Right.
Trying to remember all that.
Because it's hard. It gets difficult to remember. And you think at the time, you're like,
that may not have happened.
Yeah. Well, if everybody thinks back and it's like, oh, well, what did you eat on that day? I don't know what I ate 2 days ago. Like
water.
Sometimes we don't know. And then maybe something you drink. Maybe there is. So that's why you include everything in here. And if you meet with a dietitian, both these would be helpful. With your doctors, all of it is
very important. Yeah,
really important. So I think that's kind of it for these. And I'm sure we could go on and on and on, but you guys are probably like, just want to get started and start using yours. So
you just want to buy it so bad.
Yeah. So these are just, you guys use this how it works best for you. And hopefully, maybe you got something from our tips, our suggestions, how we use it. But however you use it, let us know what you got them for. Maybe you don't have IBD and you got these. Let us know how. Yeah, I think it makes it worth it, because these took a really long time. This has been in my brain for a long time, and it was like I didn't want to just throw something out there that I wasn't proud of. And then I kept adding things too. It was like,
to make sure it's all.
Yeah.
There's always room for improvement, but this is the best it is right now.
Right. And I'm sure at some point, who knows what I'll think of, but right now I haven't. Right now this is
the best it can be.
We kept adding stuff. It's been like in production for like over a year, and we had what we were already using. So we built off of that system, and that was a tried and true system that worked. And that was great. His doctors really appreciated it and they liked what we had. So we had that, and then we made it what I think even better. And so I hope everyone will value the fact that everything is in one place, and it's keeping your health
in check.
Yeah. And right. So I think these will be very beneficial. I'm excited if you did purchase it. If you just saw this and you're like, oh my gosh, we're going to have a link for you guys. You can go to Amazon. You can get these 2-day shipping. These came so fast. I didn't believe it.
Yeah.
I was like, no way, because I just placed the first order as soon as these were published on Amazon. It's like, let's see. Literally in 2 days.
2 days.
They were there, printed, beautiful, everything we hoped for. It was like, whoa. Yeah, it was pretty amazing. Yeah. So even if you're in the hospital right now, if you need one of these and order it, should be there. They have it delivered to the hospital, or just have it when you get home. It'll be there for you guys. So feel free to reach out to us too. If you have any questions or want any advice on how we filled something or how we did something, please reach out anytime. And if you need any medical advice, though, please don't contact us.
You're not doctors.
No, that will be your doctor. So important to let your doctor know, This does not replace a doctor,
No.
guys. This is not.
What this is meant is you can fill this out and then show your doctor.
Right. And let your doctor know you're using it. And as always, if there's something that is bothering you, you talk to your doctor first. We don't just write it down in the book and think, oh, let's see how it goes tomorrow. If there is a more immediate issue or problem, yes.
Contact your doctor.
Please contact your doctor and make sure, you're okay. But yeah, let your doctor know you're using these and hopefully they'll help you guys out. So with that, you guys can follow us on Instagram. We'd love to see you on there at Team IB Determined, following our journey.
And Reggie Project.
The Reggie Project. Yeah, that would be great too. If you guys want to take a picture, download a version of Reggie, and he's on our website, and we have a link.
Anywhere.
Yeah, you can just take him with you and go to the hospital, go to an appointment. We'd love to see more faces on there.
Oh, imagine Reggie with Statue of Liberty in the background.
That would be really cool. I know. I'm like, I hope some kids who live in other places that would take pictures with it and landmarks.
That'd be so cool.
That'd be really fun.
That'd be really cool. Reggie at different places.
Yeah. So that'd be cool, guys, if anybody wants to do that. So if you're listening to us, you're probably enjoying our podcasts on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, or Apple Podcasts. And there are other places as well, which we'll have linked for you guys in the description so you can see where to listen.
And there's actually YouTube podcasts, which is the perfect segue to YouTube itself. So if you are on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe. And if you want to be notified every time we post a video, make sure to hit that bell icon.
Please feel free to comment, guys. And
we love reading your comments.
Yeah, let us know if you ordered them. Let us know if you received them. And we're, again, super proud of this and so excited to use something that's been a win for us and will hopefully be a win for you. So we hope you guys enjoy them. And again, let us know if there's anything we can help you with.
Just let us know.
Answer. Yeah.
Hopefully you like using them.
Yep. And we will resume with if you're watching this in order, watching our podcast in order, we were supposed to be talking about the final IBD day at Rady's today, but we had to interrupt it
next week.
Yes, so that'll be back next week.
So if you're interested about watching IBD Day, tune in for next week.
Yep, that'll be the overview and the final day we discuss.
Yes.
So that'll be it, guys. So hope everyone is having a good weekend, week, day, evening, morning.
For you.
Yeah, hope it's good. So
YouTube time, podcast time. Maybe you're running, listening to podcasts,
like I do. Yeah, that's when I always listen to my podcast. All right, guys, have a great rest of your day, and we will see you next week on the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.
We hope you will stick around, tune in, and reach out to us with your own journeys. We are excited to give you an inside view of what it takes to be a caregiver and what it's like to be a patient.
And most of all, we hope you'll maybe be able to apply something you hear on here that might help you in your own life. Sometimes life changes, and it's all about how you handle the journey.